Those hopeless kids, they're the ones we're seeing these statistically significant improvements that had the researchers like giddy with, they couldn't believe what they were seeing.
That is Kate Schrauth. She's the executive director of ICouldBe.org, which is an online or e-mentoring program. In the past decade, they've helped over 20,000 at-risk students partner up with business leaders from various industries. Kate Schrauth is this week's guest on the Learning Matters podcast. My name is Ted Bauer, and I'm a web producer at Learning Matters. I recently had the chance to speak with Kate on all manner of topics related to working with at-risk youth, which has been a hallmark of her career for over 25 years. In 1990 in Boston, she founded Artists for Humanity, which was an art and entrepreneurship program for middle and high school students. In her current role with ICouldBe, which sometimes is referred to as ICB in this interview, she's executive director and has oversight over all operations. One quick note on the audio quality of this podcast. While you can clearly hear everything that I say and that Kate says, this was taped in the Learning Matters office and it was taped adjacent to a hallway, so sometimes you will hear background noise. We apologize for that, and we have rectified that situation for future podcasts. If you stick around after this podcast, you can hear more about what's going on at Learning Matters and learningmatters.tv, as well as find out next week's podcast guest. Thanks a lot, and thanks for listening. Could you just talk a little bit about your organization and the role you play within it and kind of how you came to that place?
So we're a 10-year-old nonprofit organization that is worked with about 25,000 kids across the U.S. In that time. And we are providing kids who are growing up in at-risk communities and are at risk themselves of not finding success in school and not being prepared to either graduate or go to college or find a job or a career. So we work with a very high-risk population, and we provide them with 2 or 3 mentors who are in careers that they might be interested in pursuing themselves. And so we've developed this 30-unit research-backed curriculum that has tons and tons of activities around academic achievement, career exploration, college preparation, and in a very broad term of college, so whether it's vocational or a 4-year institution or community college or even the military, anything that would lead to some post-secondary education. We've got them also doing some financial literacy work so that they begin to understand the financial repercussions of these big life decisions they're starting to make for themselves. So they walk through these activities with the help of these 2 or 3 mentors for an entire school year, and our mission here is to bring the very best from the world of mentoring, all that social, emotional, supportive adult care into their lives, and mix it with kind of the very practical, tactical about how do I set goals that are really right for me, and how do I go on my own personal life journey to figure out what lights me up inside, because we know if we can light that spark with these kids, they'll do whatever it takes to reach those goals. So we're trying to just really kind of spark them to say, what could I be? What would I like to be? And then how do I get there very practically and tactically? So they'll do a big journey piece around career exploration, but then they'll do some really hard research about what is that career like and what educational background do I need and how would I get in there and what can I be doing now around internships and summer jobs to start building that resume that's going to help me get into that field and get the educational background I need to do well in that career. And the mentors show up every single week. So we're embedded in the kids' classrooms once a week. And then the mentors know that every Wednesday is ICouldBe Day, and I'm going to hear from my mentee, and then they have a couple of days to get into those activities, and they respond and give advice and have all of that experience to share with the kids to help them on their way and set goals and benchmark towards goals. So it's this kind of combination of this emotional support with the practical and tactical of writing resumes, of, moving through the college application process and having a draft of that college application essay that they can really use through to get into that post-secondary educational institution that they want to go to. So that's kind of who we are. When I came in as the executive director, I said we have to do three things. The e-mentoring world is new and emerging, and we have to make sure we're doing this really well. So the first thing we did was create the 30-unit curriculum, and the second thing we did was a team of researchers at Drexel University who developed an assessment and evaluation program for us, which we have been using since then. So we really focus there. So we need the curriculum to create the context for the online relationships between adults and kids who are not going to meet face to face to take root. And that's what those curricular activities do. It allows for trust to be built, relationships to grow, and for all of those practical activities to happen over the course of that year. And then the research is there to back that up. And then the third piece, which really distinguishes ICould from other e-mentoring programs, is the safety and security features, because we've got a lot of issues around safety and security when we bring adults and kids together online. Right. Big stuff, big time stuff. We can't make a mistake there, So of course, all of our adults are put through a triple background check, a criminal check, a sex offender check, and then we also do an identity check. So we are absolutely certain that all of our mentors are appropriate to be working with the kids. But then we've created inside of the ICould program this whole series of monitoring and security systems and we're very upfront with everybody about this. We are looking for anybody who is trying to share personally identifying information that would allow an adult to physically locate a child or virtually locate a child outside of the ICould program cannot and will not happen. So we don't let anybody share email addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses, Facebook pages, websites, anything that will allow them to connect outside of the site, because we want them doing all of the work internal to the ICould program so that we can make sure that everybody is being appropriate and sharing appropriate content and really staying focused on the mentoring task at hand. And the system is working really beautifully. Everybody is we don't see instances of cyberbullying. We're really asking everybody that these are professional mentoring relationships that we're developing. We're learning how to network, so we need to be very respectful. And our hope is that the kids are taking all those lessons to their other online lives to stay safe. But it's a system. We've looked worldwide for some fabulous genius technologists to develop the perfect monitoring and filtering system, and we couldn't find it, so we built it ourselves and continue to work very hard to make sure everybody's safe all the time.
I just had a base logistical question in terms of the security and safety stuff is really impressive. In terms of how you actually find the mentors, or how does that work? Do they come to you? Are they recruited? Is it a combination of the two factors?
Yeah, it's definitely a combination. So we do it one of two ways. One is that we are looking to partner with companies all across the U.S. And so we've developed this whole corporate sponsorship and partnership program.
Okay.
So those companies who are sponsoring it, E-Trade is the best example. They've been with us since 2003. They serve 650 to 1,000 kids a year, and they are located in cities where their employees live and work. And so they cover the cost of the program for all of those kids. but they also invite their employees to be the mentors to those kids. And they actually let them take an hour a week of company time to do that volunteering. So it's really this beautiful win-win situation for everybody. Their employees love it, and happy employees make for good employees. And then
Yes.
the other way, we look to places like volunteermatch.org, which is wonderful for us. We get lots of mentors through Volunteer Match.
Okay.
And that really gives us all the breadth and the depth. So we're getting the artists and the authors and the entrepreneurs and the, small business owners. And, it just gives us such a depth of careers and folks from all over the country. So those two things, so we're always looking to recruit. And actually this current year, we had set a goal to recruit 1,000 mentors.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we smashed that goal by double already.
Okay.
So we're getting, we hear from our mentors all the time. I want so much to be giving back to a kid, and I'd love to be a tutor or a mentor, but, I work during the day. I can't leave my office to get to their, school during the workday. And they're just like, oh, this is such a godsend. I can finally, volunteer in a meaningful way, even, if I'm traveling for work and busy and crazy and trying to either, spend a little time with their kids on the weekend after a busy week.
And then another thing I was wondering is, obviously you've had a ton of experience in terms of dealing with at-risk populations, like going back to the Artists for Humanity program. Have you ever done work in schools themselves or like in a classroom capacity? Just because one thing I was thinking is one thing that makes your program great, differentiates it from a standard one, is that it's really building on top of a lot of classroom programs. You're not going to get any real world application to them, and that's kind of a failing of the American education system at present. So I want to know if you've been in classrooms in the various roles you've held, and if you've seen that kind of dichotomy and what you think about it.
Yeah, so even with Artists for Humanity, we started as a school-based program.
Okay.
And that was in 1990 when all of the arts programs were being cut. And so we walked into middle schools and, to bring the arts back in the after-school capacity, but in the schools. And then we kind of took it and would follow the kids from middle school all the way through high school so that they always had access to the arts. But so that was very school-based. I certainly spent a lot of time in public schools, both in Boston. And, we certainly stay very close to all of our school partners here in New York and then around the country. But I think, there was a wonderful study done by the Gates Foundation. It was the first time anybody thought to ask kids who had dropped out of school why they dropped out. I think it was in 2007. And it was a great piece. And one of the big findings in that study was that a lot of kids were dropping out because they just didn't see the relevancy of what they were learning in school to where they saw themselves in 5 or 10 years. And so trying to make that relevancy connection is absolutely critical, and that's really where we're trying to focus is the other big piece that came out of that study was another primary reason kids were dropping out was that not one adult had ever really personally connected with them in their educational career. And so those are the two hot spots that we're trying to touch is every child that we serve is 5 adults who are concentrating on that child's life journey.
Right.
So they have the 3 mentors that they can work with. They have an I could be staff person who's making sure that all of those relationships are working. We've got the teacher in the classroom who knows them the best and is there supporting them as they move through all that work. And so, here we have these instances where, we've had the president of a bank based in D.C. mentoring a young woman in East L.A. How else do you make that happen? And every child we serve, 5 adults, and it's completely scalable. Our costs actually come down as we start to scale up.
Yeah, and then I was actually going to talk about that in terms of you don't have to get into, hardcore specifics about it or anything, but what is both the funding model and then how does the cost and the scaling work?
So we have two models on the funding side.
Okay.
One is the corporate partnerships, which is our favorite because there's no cost to a school to participate. And so we're really able to get to the neediest schools through that model, and we don't have to go through the school's budget woes to get to yes. We do have about 40 or 45 schools throughout California, which are the California Partnership Academies, and these are career-themed academies that we are working with, who they have a mandate. There's a set of 8 criteria that these academies have to meet. One of those is that every 11th grader get a mentor.
Okay.
So we're able to help them meet all their criteria at a very low cost. So we actually offer the program to them at a very highly subsidized rate, and then we have to go out and raise those additional dollars. But we're happy to do it so that these kids who really need the program can get it. Our preferred model is to go look for those funders and go with partners and make it all happen, and that's been fairly successful. But we, traditional face-to-face mentoring programs are ranging from $1,100 to $1,500 a year, and I Could Be is currently at $300 per student per year, and that gives them 3 mentors, a program staff person, all of the technology, full evaluation, and lifetime alumni account status for every child that we serve. So as we start to scale up, when we start hitting partners that we work with who, are ready to serve 500 kids at a time, 1,000 kids at a time, 5,000 kids at a time, somewhere in that 500 to 1,000 student number, we start seeing the cost per student come down. And by the time we get to 5,000 kids, we're looking more at a cost of $150 to $200 per student. So there's great scalability in the model.
Okay. You talked about some of the research that speaks to you guys' successes and the Drexel study and whatnot. If you just want to speak to some of the research that has proven the effectiveness of the model and the program, that would be great.
So we started this about 4 years ago, and so April of 2010, the results were finally published.
Okay.
And we had a sample size of about 1,600 kids, which is terrific. And what we do is we do a pre and a post survey, and then a whole bunch of qualitative analysis. So the pre and the post survey that the Drexel researchers did, and these are people who have been, well published in the mentoring world for 15 plus years. They created these survey tools for us, and what we're really looking to measure is the locus of control for kids who are at high risk of not finding success in high school, moving from an external person to that locus of control internalizing so that they are now able to make good life decisions for themselves. So whether it's around career and preparing for career, college and preparing for college, having a good, broad understanding of money and finances and what the difference is if I graduate from high school or if I graduate from college, the effect that has on my earning potential.
Right.
So is all of that knowledge internalizing to help them make good life decisions? And what we're seeing is across the board, this whole measurement around self-efficacy and this locus of control shift is improving for all kids that we work with, but the kids that it's really going crazy for are the kids that start the program with literally no hope. So we use these hope scales to determine this. And for those kids who are like, are you going to graduate from high school? I don't know. Is there anybody in your life you can really lean on? No, not really. You know, if you have any goals or dreams, no, not really. Those hopeless kids, they're the ones we're seeing these statistically significant improvements that had the researchers like giddy with, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The neediest kids are the ones who are benefiting the most from the I Could Be program, which is exactly what we wanted to see.
The final thing I would ask is, if you took a broad future look at it, like, what are some of the challenges that exist right now, and what are some of the things you'd like to see in, let's say, the next 3 years, like 36 months? What are some things that you think you guys could be even better at?
I would say the absolute number one is on the technology side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our program works beautifully. The safety features work beautifully. The communication, everything works beautifully. But we are on an older platform and are looking to secure the funding to move to version 2 and have just a much more interactive and modern look and feel to the program. We don't want to lose this idea of mentors and mentees communicating back and forth a lot.
Right.
You know, we don't want to turn it into a passive video watching kind of experience or game playing experiences. We want the kids and the mentors talking and thinking and really getting, you know, meaningful discussions. But we need to take the technology to the next level.
Okay.
So the economy's been kind of sticking it to us a little in that goal, but that's really our primary focus.
I want to thank Kate Schrauth for being a guest on the Learning Matters podcast, and I want to thank all of you for listening. Next week, December 21st or so, we should have an interview with Angela Myers, who's an educational consultant. You go on over to learningmatters.tv, which is our website. We have a lot of special things coming up. There's a report soon from John Tulenko on the Cyber Charter School in Pennsylvania. You can also find the YouTube trailer for our forthcoming New Orleans Charter School documentary. All that's on the learningmatters.tv website. This report was made possible by the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, the Wallace Foundation, the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, and the Grade Level Reading Fund of the Tides Foundation. Thanks again for listening, and have a great holiday season.